if those belts did get pushed aside and there was only Zuffa Boxing and the ring, do you think that would be good for boxing?
I do. I do, because it'd sort out the nonsense.
It will be like old school warriors, you versus you. Whoever's the best is the best. The best fight the best, which is what the fans want.
Episode 4 of The Hook, joined by Johnny Fischer and Johnny Nelson, both in studio today. We're going to crack on straight away with some news that's been going around this week, that Jai Opetaia has signed for Zuffa Boxing. They had to make a statement with a big signing, but I didn't see it being Jai Opetaia. Did either of you see that one coming?
Well, I was surprised Eddie let that one, got pickpocketed with that one, because for such a big shout for Jai to make such a move for Zuffa, that's a massive shout. It's a massive scalp, because Jai is the real deal. He's one of those fighters that said, I don't care about the money, I don't care about the titles, I just want the fights. He's a proper throwback. So I know Zuffa on about they want their belt and or the Ring magazine belt. It just shows his intent, it just shows his purpose, it just shows what kind of fighter he is. So I like, principle-wise, for Jai to actually make such a shout. It's a big call. I'm surprised that happened under Eddie's nose.
Yeah, well, I think Jai Opetaia, we all know in the boxing community what a talent he is. He's proven as an undisputed cruiserweight, possibly going up to heavyweight as well. So it's a big old scalp. And I've been around Jai a few times when I was in Australia, when I was in America as well for the Crawford Canelo fight, and him and his management and Tasman fighters. That's a big move for them, and they'll probably try and build him now to that next level and becoming a big star in America or more globally. And
on the Southern Hemisphere, it's very hard to have a big star. You had Jeff Fennick back in the day, and they want someone that makes a noise worldwide, and Jai is that guy. And with this kind of move there, he does exactly that, gets himself a big name in the States. We don't know how it'll affect us this UK-wise, but to me, you can only praise such a move.
You mentioned it there, though, about the fact that Zuffa Boxing obviously want the Zuffa belt and the Ring magazine belt. Now, with Jai moving over to Zuffa Boxing, it remains to be seen whether he'll relinquish his IBF belt. If he does do that, what do you think that means for the belts as a whole, and what does that mean for boxing as we know it?
Well, I have a major issue with a lot of the governing bodies, where some of the decisions that they make, they undermine their ruling. You know, they'll strip one fighter but not strip another. They'll take someone that's out of #1 spot and just make him disappear. And the governing bodies shoot themselves in the foot, and they lose credit and they lose respect amongst the fight fraternity and the general public. So if this is the idea to say, look, let's tidy this up, then I think it's a great idea, but I don't think the governing bodies do themselves any favours, so they can't really complain.
Yeah, we've had this sort of, the politics of the belts has gone on for decades, isn't it? I mean, I think of Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, people like that, going back decades, but it's the personalities in boxing that people follow, not so much the belts. Like if we're talking about the younger generation coming through, if I went down the streets in Romford and asked them who's got the IBF, the WBO, they wouldn't talk about that. They'd talk about Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Usyk. They talk about names. So the powers with the athletes and that, and they can dictate really. I also remember Terence Crawford, when he was in his car, he was talking about saying this doesn't mean that, doesn't mean this. But does it mean the belts don't play a part? Probably not, because think of them champion. There's still a route for people to become a world champion, and being a world champion is still a massive thing.
You've got to be a special talent to be bigger than the belt. Yeah. And I think Terence Crawford is one of those few. I think Canelo was one of those fighters. I think, you know, Usyk's one of those fighters. He's given up the versions of the heavyweight belt, but still nobody thinks, you know, no disrespect to Wardley, that he's the best heavyweight in the world. So if you're in that position, this is where the governing bodies, if you want to be respected worldwide, do the right thing and stick with the best fighter in the world, and negotiate a way around getting it defended, getting your belt in the split. And I think what Terence Crawford did, he really brought it to the top. Yeah.
Do you think those big fights can still happen for Jai? Because obviously the UFC model is very in-house, and it's, you know, everyone in that stable fights each other. Does that mean these fights with, Ramirez and the Benavides, can we still get those sorts of fights happening if he's under Zuffa
I
Boxing?
think so, because at the end of the day, no matter what organisation you're with, there's an appetite for it. With the Saudis in play as well, with the money that can be put on the table, money talks louder than any of the belts really as well.
And the TV commissions, the TVs are looked at and think, you know what, even though on paper you are the number one, we want you to fight A, B, and C, and so it's the governing bodies that are going to have to negotiate and bend over backward. And realistically, can imagine, you get a lot of these governing bodies that come on the scene. It's hard for them to get the respect and to say their world champion is a world champion and get the whole world looking at it. So I think for them to step into the line.
Following on from that, I think we've seen the promoters do it really, sort of collaborate a little bit more. Who would have thought 10, 15 years ago, Warren and Eddie would be doing all these shows together. If they can do it, surely the governing bodies can do it. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Surely the governing bodies can have a bit of leeway. And they've still got, listen, the WBC, the IBF, the WBO, WBA, they're still massive belts and they're still going to be held in high regard. But they've got to be a bit of leeway.
I remember the WBO when that first came on the scene. If you were a British license of control license holder, we got letters to say we couldn't box on their bills, on a WBO bill.
Really?
And it was just disrespected. It was, people didn't care about it, but they had to fight. I think it wasn't until Shuri Leonard boxed Daniel Long, I think it was, for the super middleweight title, and it kind of gave it some legitimacy. So the governing bodies need to actually do the right thing, so they get the respect and don't say, well, you're not playing with our toys if you don't fight our.
Because they could just be pushed aside if they're not careful. But I think they've got some clever people in charge of them.
But this is what the Ring magazine want to do. I remember speaking to Turk, and he said, if they don't play ball, they will be on the outside looking in. And he actually said that to me, literally down the road from here. And I can see he's practicing what he preaches.
If a world like that did happen, if those belts did get pushed aside and there was only Zuffa Boxing and the Ring, do you think that would be good for boxing?
I do. I do, because it'd sort out the nonsense. Because at one point, as you say, you'd be able to walk down the street and say to somebody who's the heavyweight champion of the world, you do it now. Would you say Fabio Wardley? Would you say Alexander Usyk? Yeah, but then because it's so mixed and matched, people are getting lost. So, and I know it'll dumb it down to only a certain type of amount of belts and opportunity through the fights coming through. But you need the program at number 1 fights, number 2 fights, number 3. So the best fight the best.
It makes like a tournament setup, doesn't it? Or like a Premier League table. This is number 1, this is number 2, number 3, which is good for the fans and it formulates it all. But is it good, thinking from a selfish boxing perspective, if you're Fabio Wardley and you've just won the world title, you can fight Derek Chisora, or you can fight, no disrespect to Derek Chisora, or you have to then go and fight Usyk in the knockout system. Like, you've got less choice. It takes a choice away from the boxer in their career and their management to get them the best fight for them to get as high as they can and earn as much money as they can. This will take that away, and it will make it will be like old school warriors, you versus you, whoever's the best is the best, the best fight the best, which is what the fans want.
Yeah, I think promoters, as you've just said there, haven't always loved that concept, because if they can say, oh, I've got a heavyweight world champion, and then another promoter can say, I've got a heavyweight world champion or something.
This is part of the reason why Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury haven't fought each other. Everybody wants to keep the golden goose. And it doesn't matter what you or I think, they want to keep the golden goose, and the promoters, it's their job to actually sell the spin it, to say why this fight's not happening. It's not my fault, it's his fault. So when you're just talking about just tidying things up, individuals profit, promoters profit, and that's the business. But this, if in this make-believe scenario, if it did come about, I think down the line it will be a good thing. I think initially it'll make people have to work together, and whoever has the champion, it puts him in a great position, but that's just how it is.
Well, I'm wondering, working together, whether this Jai Opetaia deal will mean that Eddie Hearn and Dana White have to get on the same page, because they've had some choice words. I think those two
would be a great partnership, and I said that, I don't know if I said it on the last show, I think Eddie and Dana are a match made in heaven. They just need to put their egos out of the way and say, let's do this together. And they will be a powerful force in the world of boxing, not just in their little spot. And I think those two working together, listen, it can be done, as you say. You never expected Eddie and Frank working together. But I think those two together, sort your business out, boys.
I can see that happening though, like as you said, like in 5, might take a few years, a decade, the Super League of boxing, that's what's going to materialise. And yeah, I can see why that's what the fans want, but in a selfish perspective, or if you're a professional boxer and you're at the top of your game and you want to maximise your earnings as well. And if you're making your way through and you're a world champion and you can have a voluntary like you get with a WBO or WBA, with this system it might be it's just going to knock all that out, which will give us the fans what we want, but also as a boxer as well, you're thinking, is that going to be the best navigation for my career and my earnings? Yeah. So yeah, it's balancing that up. I can see both sides of it for the fans and then for the people who participate in what is probably the hardest sport in the world.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to watch how it progresses and how it develops. Another kind of talking point this week has been this rumour about Boxer having a pay-per-view deal that's going to be coming to light apparently soon. Do you think there's any truth in that? And do you think that they have the stars to be able to have not just the BBC deal, but also a pay-per-view deal?
I'm curious to know where that information's come from, or whose mouth that information's come from. Now, if you're talking to broadcasters saying that, then I'd probably believe in it. If you're talking one particular individual saying that, then the proof is in the pudding. And so it's like the boy that cried wolf. So let's just, I'd love to see how it works, but it's a massive mystery, and the devil's in the detail. So let's wait and see.
Yeah, you don't really know. It's all words, and boxing's got a big history of gossip and people saying this and saying that. But if there is a pay-per-view opportunity for the boxers on BBC, then I welcome it, because there's more opportunities for fighters. Yeah.
And how's it work? It might be spin to get people talking. It might be wishful thinking. It might be spin. So it's just, how would it work? What fighters do Boxer have to merit a pay-per-view show? Now, if it's just a Boxer stable, I find that impossible. If it's Boxer in adjacent with somebody else, then I find it possible. But then who with, and how would that program work?
Obviously wouldn't work with the BBC, would it? Because it's publicly funded. I mean, they've got to find another network for that, so which makes it messy in itself.
And it also depends on the deal. So if their deal is exclusively with BBC, can they go somewhere else and put the stars that BBC build up on another platform? I don't think that's the deal. I don't think it works that way. But I'm not a promoter. It just sounds a little sus.
Well, one thing that isn't gossip is the return of Tyson Fury. There's been lots of talk, and every day it's kind of progressing on and building on as to who he's going to fight, who he's going to return against. Makhmudov looks like he's leading the way at the moment. What do you think of a Tyson Fury-Makhmudov kind of link-up?
I think Tyson Fury, I mean, people wrote him off when he came back when he had 30 stone, and he came back and beat Deontay Wilder. So that's a good link-up. I mean, he's a top 20 fighter, Makhmudov, isn't he, like rankings-wise? But yeah, I just want to see Fury progress a little bit more, keep on this training, and I'm not going to write the man off, because he's done it before from even worse odds. So yeah, there's a route back for him.
I don't think he went anywhere. He just went for a little walk. I don't think when he retired, I'm like, no, Jan. But maybe at the time he meant it. And he clearly did at the time, but it clearly wasn't the case. Where would I put him? I wouldn't. Tyson Fury is still a dangerous cookie, even though he's not the fighter he was, in my opinion. I think Tyson Fury in with Fabio, Tyson Fury in with I don't know, Daniel. Yeah, Gassiev. So there's an opportunity that this guy could come back and pick up a title in some way, shape or form in his first fight. And he could do that because he has the knowledge, he has the experience, he has the wisdom. Has he got the legs? We don't know. Has he got but does he need that with the experience he's got? You see these old-time footballers, making a mockery of these youngsters coming through. So why can't Tyson do that? Yeah. So there's a chance for him, if he wanted to, and he was ambitious to say, let me get straight in for this title, because I can have yours. And these are fights you could see him winning.
Mm-hmm. You've shared the ring with Tyson before. You've done some sparring with him. What's it like being in the ring with Tyson Fury? It
was a good few years back now. It's before he fought Deontay Wilder in the third fight. And there was a few sparring partners. I was there, Adelaide was there, Jordan Thompson, George Fox. So he's the older man then. Even back then, he was still must be 32, 33, 34, and he was sparring these young guns coming through. And it's the ability for him to be everywhere at once sort of thing, and he's got such a repertoire of punches, the languidness of him, the reach, the strength of the man as well when you're in close with him. And it was just a privilege really I was only 2 or 3 fights in to be able to go and experience that and be around him. His dad was there as well, Kronk Sugar Hill. The whole experience is what you dream of when you're a young boxer coming through. But yeah, he's got a bit of everything, Tyson. The most important thing is he's got, for want of a better phrase, the cojones to keep going and going. Like, he went to the backyard of Klitschko in 2015, took the belts off him, and then he arguably beat Wilder the first time and then beat him twice thereafter. So yeah, he's done it before, and there's no reason why he can't come back and be involved again, as Johnny said.
I think this guy's earned his stripes. So now these young guns coming through, they've got to look at Tyson Fury. Would you look at him as a potential scalp? You've got to have a lot of cojones to say, I want Tyson Fury as a potential scalp, because this guy, what he knows about boxing, most of these guys, what he's forgotten about boxing, most of these guys don't even know. So I remember him boxing. I was out when he boxed Klitschko, did a great job. I remember him being a sparring partner even before that fight for Klitschko. So everything that you went through, he went through. So he has the experience, he has the wisdom. And now he's got the bit between his teeth. Now he's back on it again. You see my trainer. I love the fact that he gave homage to Brendan Ingle and said, "You've got to nail me down." The great late Brendan Ingle said that. I love that. And Brendan loved him as a fighter. He rated him massively. So Tyson, he's one of those fighters that, at the moment, he wants to fight again. So as long as he wants to fight and the appetite's there, that's the fun bit.
You said about him having huge cojones as one of the things that you notice when you're in training with him. People talk about him being so awkward. What do they mean by that when they're in the ring? What is it about him that is so awkward?
Well, you feel like he's close to you, but you're very far away from him. So I think when my tactic, just in the few rounds that I'd done with him, I was like, there's no way I can try and box this guy, because I'm going to be nowhere near the skill level to be able to do so. So you've got to try and turn it into some sort of scuffle and make it ugly. So when I mean it's awkward, the awkwardness, he punches very hard. He's very tall, 6'8", 6'9", and he's got the range and the boxing knowledge to be able to get away when he needs to as well. And he's got ring craft, something that I'm still trying to get now. I think that ability to the experience, as Johnny said, that he's forgotten more than most boxers of my age and younger have even learnt. So the ring craft, the ability to hold the ring and the generalship and where to box, where to move off, them little tricks and the trades that you can only gain through experience in fights.
I think awkward is probably a disservice. Brendan would say unorthodox. And you can never train for an unorthodox fighter. That's why Usyk's so successful. That's why Tyson Fury was so successful, because their styles were very effective but unorthodox. So which means you're not going to get a mirror image or somebody that boxes like him in the gym. You just got to throw caution to the wind and think, I hope I hit him with this shot, and drag it into a dogfight.
When people talk about Tyson Fury and they kind of say, oh, well, he lost and he's out of it now and he's not the fighter he was and everything like that. You think about it, he's only lost to Alexander Usyk. Do you think people are almost too quick to say that he's done, he's out, he's gone because he lost to Usyk? There's no shame in losing to Usyk.
That's human nature in general, isn't it? You look at football, one week your team, West Ham, are on the top of the world, and then the next week all their midfielders and everyone's rubbish. It's human nature to want to be able to criticise people. People are paying their money to watch, they're going to criticise. But yeah, what hope have the rest of us got if Tyson Fury's finished and Joshua's finished?
I think it's about appetite. I think he lost his appetite. Not his appetite to work as hard, prepare as hard, focus as hard. And I think so when he boxed Usyk, I think the first fight showed the appetite wasn't the same. The second fight did. Now he's come back, you hear him talk. He's on it. He sounds like he's got appetite again. He sounds like the hunger's back again. It's like I'm doing this, I'm bored of this. And I think as long as the want and the desire's there, he'll always be a hard man to beat. But as long as the want and desire's there, if it's not there, then he's a man in waiting to be beaten.
There were moments in that first fight where I thought, if it's very easy to say from the outside, if he just turned the screw a little bit more. There's moments in that fight where I thought Tyson Fury was going to get on top and possibly stop Usyk, but it's a tough ask. We know how good Usyk is. But yeah, as you said, Johnny, if the appetite is there, and it looks like it is, I've seen him talk, I've seen him speak, he looks focused, he's talking in a focused manner. Maybe this is the the time we see a second coming and he can challenge the third time coming, yeah. We can see him challenge again. And why not? I think we've seen older heavyweight champions than him.
Talking of appetite, obviously Tyson Fury has an appetite for a third fight with Alexander Usyk, but do you think the appetite's there for the fans? Do you think they'd want to see a third fight between them?
Depends on what he has to offer. So say, for instance, he fights one of the other guys and picks up some version of the title. Then with the appetite, will it be the same as it was the last two times? I don't think so. But you know what? As he said, there's no characters in the sport. There's no loud noise in the sport. There's no one that you want to love or hate, love or loathe in the sport. And he's that guy. He's the guy you want to just like think, God, I hate him. I want to see him get knocked out. Or you want to be that in that fury of the
you need polarising characters, or you need characters in any sport, let alone boxing. It makes people watch.
Yeah, yeah. Talking of another person who wants another shot at the title, Daniel Dubois, now training with you at Tony Sims's gym. How's he getting on? How's he looking these days?
Yeah, I mean, I've trained with Daniel before this as well, for about 3-4 years ago now, when he was in the Tibbs stable for a brief amount of time. He's always been a diligent trainer, always trained really, really hard. And I think that's a good gelling with Tony Sims, because Tony's a very diligent trainer as well. And we get a regime sent through at the end of every week of what we've got to do. And I think Daniel just loves training. He's one of them guys, you've got to have that bug to do it, and he's extremely powerful. He's still young, he's only a year older than me, he's 27. And I think it's a good match, him and Tony. And I'm excited to see when the date gets announced for a next fight what work they can do together.
Yeah, I heard you saying once about Daniel that after training you guys were all going to the pub just to have some food, but because it was a pub he wouldn't go because he was so focused on saying, can't go near alcohol, can't anything like that.
I think because the word pub was mentioned, we was going to the Rabbits, which is literally around the corner. I think he thought we was going to go and have a pints of Guinness and stuff, but we were just going to have a bit of food. But yeah, he's completely driven, like his life. There is nothing else other than boxing, and I'll say that as a compliment. That's why he's so good. That's why he's been a world champion, because that is him through and through. And yeah, he's training diligently now.
People talk a lot about Daniel Dubois' power. It's always something that comes to mouth straight away when you mention the name of Daniel Dubois. But having shared rounds with him in sparring, what are the other elements of Daniel Dubois that maybe people don't notice as much or think about as much?
He's definitely the hardest puncher I've faced. I think that's pretty clear to say. But one thing that people don't give him enough credit for as well is his distance control. He's very good at just a couple of inches back, couple of inches forward, and he pounces on you if you fall over your front foot a little bit or a little bit back. And that jab is what allows him to have that distance control for me.
Can I ask you, there used to be a fighter called Herbie Hyde, and Herbie was the fighter that if he thought he could beat you, there's nothing anybody could say that would change his mind. If he didn't think he could beat you, he'd lost before he even got in the ring. And Daniel, I think when he boxed Usyk, I think that I saw that side of him. He didn't, that belief, that real true belief, can I really do this? But when he got in with AJ, it was a completely different kettle of fish. He went in there completely focused and on it. And how Usyk dismantled him the second time as well as the first time. So do you think he's one of those, he's still a young man that's growing, do you think he's one of those guys, if he believes he can do it, because he's got the talent, he has the power, he has the strength, he has the experience coming through to be at the top?
Well, I think when we look at like the AJ fight compared to the Usyk fight, the first round for a lot of people can set the tone of a fight, and I think the way that he shocked AJ in that first round a little bit, and I would probably think, yeah, you're looking at that, that's giving him the confidence to go on and do it. But Usyk is such a wasp in and out. He's hard to pin down, and maybe from the first fight he looked at it and thought he might have thought this is going to be a tall ask, but he had moments in that second fight, but it just got there and he got the job done. Usyk is a special talent, a generational talent, and I think he would want that third fight, Usyk, Dubois, if he could build back to it. But yeah, it's not an easy job, but it's a level above anything I've ever dreamed of doing. So it's a hard night's work for someone to try and dismantle Usyk. I mean, Fury and Joshua couldn't do it.
Yeah. I think people talk a lot about Daniel, and they talk about his heart and whether he quit. And I think a lot of people that have never stepped foot in the ring, it's unfair for them to even have an opinion on that, because just getting in the ring in and of itself means that you can't really be a quitter. But do you think there is an element of Daniel that potentially his mind doesn't let him continue when it gets tough in those situations?
No. I just think he run out of ideas. I mean, he's got beat by the better man. He caught him with a right hand, left hook, and he got beat. It happens in boxing rings, and I'm definitely not going to be someone here sitting here trying to tell Dubois that he's a quitter, because he's got beat by the best heavyweight of our generation.
Yeah, one of the big talking points about Daniel has always been the father-son relationship, how instrumental his dad is. What is it like having his dad in camp? Can you see kind of a difference in Daniel when his dad's there and he's training and when his dad's not there?
I
How
haven't
influential?
seen Stan once in this camp. He hasn't been up there once. He's been up, Daniel on his own all the times that I've been there. I do know Stan from before when we was training in the Tibbs's setup for that brief amount of time. I think sometimes people think he's got more of an involvement than what he has. I remember seeing the party before the Usyk fight. That wasn't a good look. I don't know too much about that, but yeah, all I can say from my perspective, I've been in the gym with Tony, and I think Tony's a regimented guy, and I don't think he'd let anyone get involved too much anyway. But
yeah, I think that's what Daniel needs as well. I think Stanley. I spoke to Stanley after his. Daniel's fight against Usyk, and he wasn't happy. So we had a singing contest over the phone, and I get it. And Stanley, I kind of got where he was coming from. He said, "Look, I'm learning like everybody else is. This is my son. I know how to motivate my son, and I get it." And of course, I'll never agree with the decisions made in regards to the gathering before the last fight. But he's learning on the job, and he's made his son into a millionaire, and he knows his son. He knows. But sometimes in our sport, there's certain things you can't do, and you have to find out on a public stage. So the criticism, the backlash he got, it was deserved but unfair. It was not nice, but he learnt a big lesson from it, and think I'll not do that again. So in regards to staying out when he needs to stay out, such as at this stage of a fight, I think Stanley would have learnt that. In regards to motivating his son to get the best out of his son, to get him in war mode, he's learnt a lesson and thought, I know what to get at. I know how to kind of cajole, bully my son into to perform to the best of his ability. So it's a father and son relationship, and he knows his son better than any of us. Yeah. So he knows what works best for his son, but he had to learn on the job.
That's what I was about to say. Like, I can only compare it to my relationship with my dad, and no one knows me better than my dad. But there's he has to know also that he's not a boxing trainer. He doesn't know. He stays out of it, and I think that's the relationship I've seen with Tony and Daniel, and same with my dad. Tony's the boxing trainer. He knows more about boxing than I've ever learned, or he knows more what he's forgotten I've learned. So,
and Tony he's got so much experience. Tony's that guy that you don't mess with him. No. Tony, he knows the business. So Tony, the difference between him and Don Charles is Don's a negotiator, and so Don he was waiting for that fighter to put him on the pedestal to say X, Y, Z. So he let certain things slide in the gym in regards to letting someone encroach on what he was doing, as far as I saw. Whereas I think Tony is like, no, it's this way or no way. I'm willing to lose out here. I'm willing to lose this young man here. Respect what I'm doing. This is what I do. And that's the difference. And I think Don will have learned a massive lesson from that. He'll be looking from the outside in. And so it's just experience of a coach, and experience I've had to deal with. Brendan used to say to us, I train fighters, I don't train the parents. The parents have to stay out their side of the gym. And that's what it was from being a youngster. Parents had to stay outside because he understood the relationship between parents and their children. Children are children around the parents. You want your children to be responsible, want the best for themselves instead of leaning on the parents. So I hope this union, this relationship works with him and Tony.
Yeah, it even sounds like Sam Jones was talking about it before, and he was saying that he felt like it was more structured this time. And I think what you were saying about Tony Sims is I can't imagine him letting any of the blurred lines.
There's no blurred lines. There's nothing. With Tony, it's like military regiment.
Because it affects his reputation.
Yeah. And he's the boxing trainer. He's the man in the know. If I follow him and follow his instructions, we know we're going to be in a good spot.
Not in a million years, though, I think Tony Sims would let the mistake of the Usyk fight, the build-up to the Usyk fight happen. Not in a million years, because Tony Sims, Daniel's not his own star. Look at all the fights he's brought through. This is about his reputation. So you're not doing that on my watch. And that's, again, it was a lesson learned in the toughest of circumstances.
Whilst we're on the topic of Tony Sims, now working with him yourself, what have you found kind of the biggest difference in your training and your style since linking up with Tony?
I think back, I was talking about this today actually. When I first started training with Tony, I was sweating so much just from the shadow boxing, just like learning how to hold my feet, doing it in a different style, and actually sort of not giving me a new style, but perfecting my own one or trying to make me the best version of myself. That's the taxing part of it. I don't know if you agree, Johnny, like when you're thinking about what you've got to do. So that first camp going through it was quite mentally draining and mentally taxing because of the thought process that goes behind
information,
it. The information, but I've sort of downloaded the information now and it's starting to become a little bit more second nature, which is good.
And the language?
Sorry?
The language, because he'll use certain language for certain shots, certain movements, certain things that you'd only understand. The jab might be...
Like combinations have got certain names and things like that. So that's one, the training's very hard. The fitness side of it, I've never been so super fit in my life when I've been in a training camp. The altitude training that we do, he's diligent with it, and he marries up well with Sonny Cannon, who's my strength and conditioning coach. He understands I'm a heavyweight, he understands some of the impact running, the high impact triangle that they do. I can do one on assault bike, and it's about managing that workload as well. But the main thing for me, I found a difference is the attention to detail with where I'm holding my feet, what part of the ring I'm going to be occupying, where I should be, where I shouldn't be. And I'm still trying to pick it up as I go now.
One thing I rate about Johnny, before it became public that you with Tony, you know, we spoke about the Dave Allen fight, and you were really honest and said, you know what, maybe it wasn't my time yet, and I've learnt a lesson. And he was very, we were at Wembley, and
I remember
Wembley,
it was Usyk Dubois.
Yeah, and I thought, you know, I really like this kid because his feet are firmly on the ground. He understands, and he doesn't take the loss as a death sentence. He's like, all right, I'll learn from that. Not many fighters can do that. When they lose, they think their career's over. But he was really upbeat, thinking, you know what, I'll take my licks, but I'll be back. And I thought, I believe you. Yeah. I don't think that it was just words. And so that's what I thought, if you don't become British champion at some point in your career, at least British champion, I'd be very, very, very surprised because you have the right mental attitude. Yeah. Now it's having the ability. So if you're with the right person to bring the best out in you, then I think it's a
That's it. I appreciate them words, Johnny. And listen, the British title is a belt that I hold in high esteem. If I can be among the names that held that belt, that might be my limit. That might be the end of the road for me. But what an end of the road that is.
Your dad got some stick, but your dad is your dad.
Yeah.
So he loves his son.
Yeah, he's going to defend.
So the issue...
I'll think about it for me. If I'm defending if I had a son, it's very hard to have anyone say anything about it. I think about my brothers. If anyone tried to ever go at my brother, you'd have your back against the wall. And what's more important than anything in life is how loyal you are to your family members. Mm-hmm. Don't give a hell about anyone else. Don't care 1 second.
I want to go through that journey a little bit because obviously after the first Dave Allen fight, there was a lot of backlash and people were sitting on either side of the fence. What was it like internally kind of dealing with all of that criticism that came with it?
Well, I always knew when I started off, because I'm not stupid, but I'm not saying I'm super clever, but the boxing world, it being in the public eye, it's a case of being built up and being brought down again and things like that. And public opinion can change very quickly. I know I was very popular, I still am very popular, but I had a close fight. It probably could have gone around to Dave, it went around to me. Could have been a draw, people scoring it all differently. But I think where I was in a position after beating Babbage in 30 seconds, I was expected to go in there against Dave and knock him out in 3 rounds. I had people saying to me, if you don't do this in 3 rounds, it's all... But people forget the level that Dave Allen's fought at. The fact that he's just gone a distance with a guy who's a top 20 fighter and now being linked to Tyson Fury. I mean, I've had 25 fights in my life, amateur and pro, so I'm still learning on this job. But I showed people in that fight, I've got the doggedness to go in there. Now, if I learn the other parts of the trade, like I said to Johnny when we was in Wembley that time, then there is a future for me to be a British champion and beyond.
Yeah. Going into then the second fight with Dave Allen, because of that criticism that you'd got, was there more pressure? Did you almost put more pressure on yourself heading into that fight because you were thinking, right, I need to prove everyone wrong that I should have won that fight and I'm going to win this one decisively?
I didn't feel the pressure of outside expectation. What I did feel the pressure of is, what, have I got to change things now? Have I got to change? And I changed too much. I tried to box someone who's got more boxing experience than me, when I probably would have been better off making it a dogfight again, just being that little bit fresher than I was, tightening up on a few different things. But I tried to change my style. And me and Dave, I remember being in the change room in the copper box afterwards, and he went, why the hell did you do that? And I thought the same thing. I don't know why we did that. But it wasn't my trainer saying me to do that. It wasn't me personally. We said as a team, we can do this. We changed too much. We got it wrong, and that's not a blame on anyone. It's a blame on me. I'm the guy who was in that fight. But it's led me to this point now where I'm with Tony Sims. I've just won in Monte Carlo, and now I'm building a bit of momentum back again. And we're in the second phase of my career. I'm a 26-year-old man. I've got 5, 6, 7 years in this sport still if I want to keep going. So long may it continue, and I'm enjoying it. That's the main thing. That's the one thing I've learned is to enjoy boxing, because we always think about what's next and what's that. And after Babbitt, you're probably like, oh, we're going to do this, do that. But live in the moment.
Yeah.
I've got to live in the moment more.
Talking of that Monte Carlo fight, you did get the win.
Yeah.
But it was a bit hairy to start with that first round.
What a fight. Oh my
It
God.
was very hairy. I mean, that's what I'm alluding to. Like, I've got to live in the moment a bit more and not stress as much. I mean, I think in that fight, new trainer, I was trying to learn everything. I was trying to be the best version of myself. I ended up putting too much stress on myself, worrying about if, buts and maybes. I got cut in the build-up thinking about, oh, what if I spar again and I get cut open, and then all these people that have paid for flights and all that. But as Johnny said to me off camera, you just got to be a little bit more selfish, a little bit more ignorant of the things that are outside noise. And I really do think the last few weeks I watched a thing with Chris Hoy, who's obviously suffering from terminal cancer. And he said, just live in the moment, enjoy the little things. Enjoy that you've got a hard day sparring coming up, and enjoy the moment, enjoy the sauna. Don't think about and stress about outside things.
Because when it's over, you'll miss it. I'm telling you, you'll miss it. There's certain silly things that I miss. In the gym, the camaraderie in the gym and all that sort of stuff, the worrying, the stress in the training room. Now you look back and think, God, I'd do that all over again.
Yeah, I know.
If you're in the moment, then that's when you produce cameos of brilliance.
Yeah.
And do the best
And
you
I think
can.
the last 2-3 years of my life, I've probably been guilty of looking ahead and looking beyond and thinking, right, what's next? What's next? But when you
Are you a fixer?
a fixer.
Do you need everything to? Do you need to know everything?
In my house, if something goes wrong or there's something this, I'm like, right, that's got to be done straight away. But now, my dad said this. He used to be the same as me. Like, this has got to be fixed. That's got to be fixed. And now, you just don't care. And it does lift the weight off your mind when you. It's not even that important.
Yeah,
all of this is just not important.
If you're worried about your fans getting in, I wonder if his tickets are there. I wonder if she's sat there. I wonder if you're worried about that, you're not focused on you. That's when you've got to think, right, hey, or you're not.
And even in training camps, like, I'll be worrying about things that aren't even to do with boxing. Yeah. I'll be worrying about, like, someone put a radiator on my wall and it was the wrong colour. And I was thinking, this is the wrong colour, what am I going to do? I'm like, and I had to think to myself a few weeks ago, why am I stressing over these stupid things? There's no stress. I should be happy I've got a bloody radiator. Some people can't put the bloody heating on. So I know that sounds stupid, but I think you'll appreciate you're using up energy for things that aren't important. Yeah. And I definitely did that in the last camp. And I think it was all to do with the pressure of the build-up being the comeback fight. But I think once I settled down, round 3, round 4, I started to show what we've been working on. The things aren't going to be perfect, of course, is the first camp, but we can build on that. And you've got to think positive about these things.
It did feel like afterwards, I watched an interview with you and your parents came in, and it felt like a release, and it got quite emotional. Like your mum was crying, you got very emotional. What was that? Just a release of all the pressure on your shoulders?
Just a release of the pressure, probably. Whether you think about it consciously or subconsciously, you're under pressure in the public eye. I've got a bigger fan base. My dad's more famous than me, like 3 times as famous, 3 times as large as well. But like sometimes you got to keep that. I've got to keep it more professional. Keep the boxing with the boxing. And my parents, they love me to death, and they've been my biggest supporters. And without them, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in. But you have to sort of separate yourself from their angst. And I have to be focused on the job, and it's not an angst. My dad said that to me now. He's like, said, Johnny, just seize the day, enjoy every moment of this, because in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, when you're not doing this anymore, as you said, Johnny, it's all done, it's all finished. So enjoy what you're doing. When you was a uni student, travelling back every night and every day to do this and then go and play rugby, you would have dreamed of being headlining shows at the Copper Box. So just enjoy the moment.
Yeah. You've said enjoy the moment, and I'm going to do the complete opposite and ask you about what's next.
What's next? Yeah, well.
But when are we expecting to see you back out? Because there was talks of you being on the March card with George Liddard.
There's a March card, so we're looking at the minute. That's what I've been told. But as I just said to you, like, I'm getting ready for that. I'm proposing that that's the time I'm going to be fighting. I'm sparring. I'm getting ready. But there are things out of my control. Who it's going to be, where it's going to be. So just carry on doing what I can control, which is training and improving with Tony. So
I'm assuming that Jamie TKV is the fight and the direction you want to be going in for British title.
Well, that would be a great option. That would be amazing. You've got TKV. I mean, you've got Solomon Dakers around that level as well. You've got Adelaide's probably a little bit above at the minute because he's just had a good war with Hrgovic, and Fraser Clark will be looking to make some sort of comeback. I know he's split with Angel Fernandez, and there's a good little mix at that sort of English, British, domestic level, and it's an honour to be a part of that, whoever it may be.
What did you make of the Fraser Clark Jamie TKV fight?
I thought Fraser went out very fast for someone who doesn't normally start that fast. I think he was, again, someone who might have overthought it and tried to go in too much too soon. And I look at the Adelaide fight with TKV, and Adelaide sort of frustrated him for the first few rounds. So there's different approaches to it, and maybe Fraser tried to change too many things after his bad loss of Fabio, but I'm sure he'll be back. I know Fraser well.
I do feel sorry for Angel Fernandez because he's actually a really nice guy, and he knows his stuff. But I think Angel's problem was he loves his fighters. He wanted to be the mate instead of the master, and there's a difference there. When you're out of there, you know, you can be the friend, but you also got to remember, listen, this is what we're doing. And I think Angel would talk to his fighters, and he'd want to negotiate instead of saying, get this done, do X, Y, Z. And I do rate him. I think in years to come, he will get his flowers that he deserves, but he's got to go through a lot of experiences, and he'll lose one or two fighters. And I'm quite sure the breakdown of the relationship would have been hard between the two because they get on well. But for Fraser, I thought he boxed. He ducked down to a shorter man. He didn't use his jab. He didn't use what he had, and it's something that that was just missing. And I don't know if. I hope I'm wrong. I don't know if he can improve on that. I don't know, but at domestic level, he's great to have in the mix at domestic level. Like above or beyond that, I'm not sure. And I'm a big fan and a friend of Fraser's. But I think for you guys coming through for the British title, I think it's a great pool to be in.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of good opportunities, good fights that can be made. So we're looking forward to seeing them and looking forward to seeing what happens with you next.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny and Johnny, for joining us. Yeah. And if you enjoyed this episode of The Hook, make sure you head over to Daily Mail Football to check out the pitch. You can click it on this link here.